This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Profitability Movement. Go to profitability-movement.mn.co to discover how this tool can help you increase your profitability and build wealth. Thank you for joining us. Here is how we will help your business and you today. What if you are looking for another technician or any field employee and you find somebody who's really good, but he wants $30 an hour and nobody in your company's ever earned $30 an hour, or he wants $40 an hour and nobody's ever earned $40 an hour? This happened to one of the clients that I work with in California. He found this really great tech and the guy wanted $40 an hour. And so the owner of the company called me and went, "What do I do?" I said, "Okay, let's figure out how much his truck has to bring in for you to actually pay him the $40 an hour that he wants." Okay. So we did it. All right. We use something that I call Ruth's Rule number 1. And Ruth's Rule number 1 says the amount of revenue that you need is equal to your direct cost divided by 100% minus your gross margin, which is also a percentage. Remember that gross profit is always dollars. It's sales minus cost of goods sold. And gross margin is always a percentage, which is gross profit divided by sales. So again, the formula is the amount of revenues this truck needs to bring in is his direct cost divided by 100% minus his gross margin, or 1 minus his gross margin. Same thing. 100% is 1. All right. So we did that. But, let's assume that you're not in California and you just have somebody walking in the door at $30 an hour wanting $30 an hour. So let's do the numbers at $30 an hour. All right. So you're going to pay this guy $30 an hour, right? All right. And we're going to pay him on average for 2,080 hours a year. That's basically 52 weeks times 40 hours a week. So if we multiply 30 by 2,080, that comes out to $62,400. So our basic raw cost is $62,400. But I assume, like most contractors, that you're going to pay him some benefits, and you have to pay workers' comp, and you have to pay your part of Social Security taxes. And, so there's things that you have to pay on top of it. And they're actually, for most companies, about 30% of salary. So we take the $62,400, and assuming you're like the typical contractor, we multiply that by 1.3 to get $81,120. So we've taken just simply our $62,400, which is our $30 an hour times 2,080 hours a year. And then we've added 30% benefits to you. So we're now at $81,120. Okay. So again, is that it? Well, not exactly. So we have our raw cost. We have our benefits that we have to add on. And I don't know any field employee who doesn't have a truck. I mean, you can't do your work without a truck. Nobody's going to bring their heating and air conditioning system to your shop. You gotta go. So over the country, over the United States, the average truck cost right now is about $10 an hour. In places like New York and California and Chicago and really expensive cities, it's more. It's more like 12 to 14. In rural areas, it might be 8 or 9. All right. But as a general rule, on average, the average truck cost is about $10 an hour. All right. So we're going to use $10 an hour. So he's going to have his truck for 2,080 hours. I mean, it's his truck. He's going to be driving it. He's probably going to be taking it home unless he's a field installer or something like that. But as a general rule, you're going to pay for his truck for 2,080 hours. All right. So that's $10 an hour times 2,080 hours. And that gives us $20,800 is what his truck is going to cost you for a year. Okay. So now we have our raw cost of $62,400, our 30% benefits, which made which brings it up to $81,120. And then when we add our truck cost to it, we're now at $101,920 for this guy who wants $30 an hour. All right. Now, let's assume your gross margin is 40%. All right. Remember Ruth's rule number 1. Okay. Ruth's rule number 1 says the revenues that you need are your direct costs, which we've just added together, divided by 100% minus your gross margin percentage. So if we have a 40% gross margin, we divide by 100 minus 40, or 0.6. So we take our $101,920 and divide it by 0.6. So this truck has to generate $169,866.67. All right, $170,000. All right. So can this guy generate $170,000 in his truck? And that's a discussion that you have to have with him. All right. So let's go back to my client. And when we get back from the break, I'm going to tell you how to do this by month. But let's assume we're back to my client. The guy needed to generate, based on their company information, $201,000 or something along those lines. And the owner said, I'm just going to tell him he has to generate $250,000 a year in his truck to earn what he wanted to earn. And the guy said, fine. I've done that in the past. I can continue to do that as long as I have the work. I can do it. And so my client hired him, and he's doing very, very well. He's doing what he needs to do every single month to make sure that he generates enough to earn his $40 an hour. All right. So you should never, ever, ever, and I don't use the word never very often, but in this particular case, don't be afraid if somebody wants $25 an hour or $30 an hour. Just figure out what they have to bring in to be able to make that happen. Now, if they bring it in, terrific. If they don't bring it in, then you have another discussion. You're going to have this discussion with the person when you hire the person, and basically say, I'm happy to do it. This is what your truck needs to bring in. Can you do that? And they're going to go, oh, yeah. All right. If you don't bring this in the truck, I'm going to drop your salary to what you're bringing in. All right. So be aware that this is dependent upon you. I will make sure you have enough work, but it is up to you to actually generate this amount of revenue. And that's the conversation that you have to have. So when we get back from break, we've now discovered that it's $170,000 for this truck that has to be brought in if a guy wants $30 an hour. Given this, I'm going to show you how to break that down on a month-by-month basis. So thanks for listening. We will be right back.
Do you ever have warranty leak issues? One of Ruth King's clients did about 4 years ago. Thousands of dollars in expense and unhappy customers. She solved this problem for him, though. How? With a leak letter that every customer must sign when a service technician discovers a refrigerant leak. Once they implemented the letter, there were no more warranty leak headaches. No warranty leak callbacks. Happier customers. The surprising result was more replacement sales, too. To get a copy of the leak letter for free, just send Ruth an email at ruthking@hvacchannel.tv. That's ruthking@hvacchannel.tv.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. Before the break, I gave you the numbers that a field employee would have to earn $30 an hour if that's what he wanted to earn. And you can do this example if he earns $40 an hour, $50 an hour, $22 an hour, $20 an hour. It doesn't matter what he wants. You just have to know how much that truck needs to bring in to cover what the guy or the girl wants. All right. So again, he wanted $30 an hour times 2,080 hours a year. So that gave us $62,400 as a very basic raw cost. Then we have to add his benefits to it. And on average, your benefits are going to be about 30% of raw wages. So we take the $62,400, multiply it by 1.3, which is our 30% benefits, and that gives us $81,120. Then we have to add his truck cost to it of $10 an hour times 2,080 hours, and we get $20,800. Add that to the $81,120, and that gives us $101,920. Since we have a 40% gross margin, in this particular department. We divide that number by 0.6 to get $169,866.67. $170,000. All right. So the guy says to you, yes, I can generate $170,000 at $30 an hour. And you say, terrific. I'm really looking forward for you to be able to do that. Let's figure it out on a monthly basis. And so what you will need to do also is figure out the seasonality of your business. Like, what percentage of your business comes in January, and what percentage of your business comes in February, and what percentage of your business comes in March, April, May, all the way through December. Now, you're going to have slower months of the year and busier months of the year. For those of you who just have, for all intents and purposes, cooling season, June, July, August are going to be your 3 busiest months. For those of you who have cooling and heating seasons, the likelihood is you're not going to die in January and February, i.e. have very little revenue, because you have heating season on top of it. So whatever your percentages are, make sure you divide them up by month, and then they'll have the percentages for each month. So I suggest you look at what your revenues were, and let's say in a service department or an install, and do it for the past couple of years. Since 2020 was a pandemic year, you may want to include that year. You may not want to. You might want to do it on 2019 and 2018. It's totally up to you. But figure it out. Average the 3 years together. And let's say that you average the 3 years together, and in January, you get about 5% of your yearly revenues. All right. So we have this guy whose truck has to earn $170,000. 5% of $170,000 is $8,500. So in the month of January, he has to generate $8,500. And it's really easy. Did he do it or didn't he? I mean, it's black and white. It either happened or it didn't. It's not, a question mark. No shades of gray here. Yes or no, it happened or it didn't happen. But what about those really busy months? Let's say June, where you might be doing 10% of your revenues. He has to bring in $17,000 in that particular month. So $8,500 in January, $17,500 in June. And the amount of revenue that he needs to bring in is going to vary month by month by month, depending upon the percentage of revenue that you generate in those particular months. So assuming he's making his numbers, it's great. You don't have to do anything other than tell him he's making his numbers. What has happened in a few times is, let's assume that in January he was supposed to make $8,500 and he made $16,000. In June he was supposed to make $17,000 and he made $34,000. He's probably going to come back to you and say, I want a raise. That has happened. Be aware. All right. Because this is what my truck is really bringing in. But let's take the tough side or the flip side. And he's not bringing in what he's supposed to be bringing. All right. So you're going to have to figure out where he is with respect to what his truck is bringing in. Is he at $29 an hour? Is he at $28 an hour? You do the same you do the same exercise. Instead of putting $30 an hour in, you put 29 or 28 and figure it out. And you're going to have that sit down with him. And it basically says, when we hired you, according to the agreement that we signed, by the way, you need to sign this. Your truck had to do X number of dollars in January and X number of dollars in February and X number of dollars in March for me to give you the $30 an hour that you want. Here's where your truck is. We're not bringing it in January. We're not bringing it in February. We might have brought it in March, made budget, whatever else it is. So you're actually generating revenues at a $37 an hour range. And so if I don't see your truck revenues come up to where they need to be in the next 30 days, I'm dropping your salary to $37 an hour or $27 an hour. I'm sorry. So if we have him at 30, he's actually earning per the 27. That's where his salary is going to be. Now, can he get back to 30? Absolutely. All right. Sometimes it takes dropping his salary down to the 27 for him to actually wake up and smell the roses. All right. And this assumes that he has enough service calls to run or there's enough replacements for him to do. But he actually has the opportunity to earn the $30 an hour, and he's just not doing it. You'll notice that I said you put it in writing. He signed off on it. It's his employment agreement, and you just lay it out. And this is what happens if you don't make it. And, you're going to have a tough conversation with him. Pull out the agreement, write up another agreement that says, if it doesn't go back to what we need to have you at $30 an hour, your hourly will be $27 an hour starting April 1st or something along those lines. Put it in writing. Because techs, like your customers, have what I call CMS, convenient memory syndrome. They'll remember the $30 an hour, but they're not going to remember what happens if they don't make their $30 an hour. Okay. So just be careful. All right. You can offer your techs anything they want to earn as long as they generate the revenue that you want and that you need for that particular individual to get the hourly rate that he wants. Okay. So somebody says they want $30 an hour. Okay, here's what we have to bring in. Somebody wants $40 an hour. Okay, here's what we want to bring in. You have to bring in. And your people who are working with you, you can give them the same opportunities. You want to earn more? This is what your trucks need to bring in. And put everybody on the same deal. That way there's no hard feelings. There's no questions about what trucks need to bring in with respect to revenue. It works. All right. So thank you for joining us. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.